Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Ketchup. I am here today. This is Joshua Knoll. We're Priest of the Geek, Systematic Ecology. You guys know what this is. It's where we catch up on our favorite comic books. It's my favorite condiment-themed series, probably ever. Actually, I can't think of a ton of condiment-themed series, so I am really excited. This is a little bit of a flashback because, we're the Priest of the Geeks. Originally, when we started the Comic Book Ketchup series, this was like a me, Brandon, and Will thing. So it's great to have Brandon Knight back as a guest. For those of you who remember, he was a host of Systematic Ecology. He still guests a few times here and there. Also, host of the My Seminary Life podcast. Great show, part of the AMP network. So go check it out. Brandon Knight, Knight of the Round Table, the standard for what greatness is. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Thanks for bringing me back to what was basically our baby. The whole show is your baby, but like the comic book ketchup, that was like something birthed out of you, me, and Will a long time ago. And you're right. We definitely need more condiment themed shows out there. I do love it
Yeah.
that you have drinks with Tejas, comic book ketchup, manga mustard. You need like retro relish. You do like retro
Ooh,
gaming reviews, retro
ooh,
relish. Uh, I was trying to come up
that
with
would be a good one.
mayonnaise, but I can't. You could do mayonnaise is an
Mayonnaise
instrument, and it could
instrumentals.
be just like this. Yeah, something. I don't know.
Oh, good. That's great. Well, My Seminary Life, Brandon Knight. Hey,
Mhm.
for those who don't know, because this is going up on our YouTube and it's a little bit of a different audience. What is My Seminary Life?
Yeah, so my seminary life started as a show where I was recapping the things have been studying in grad school as I was working on my Master of Arts. And I graduated earlier this year. So the show has taken a pivot to where I'm talking about either things that I probably should have taken a class on. The very first series I did after graduation was on apologetics because somehow I got through seminary without taking an apologetics class. I don't know how that works. But also making space for some fun, unique deep dives, which is what we're doing right now. Just started this month, September, a series called Ancient Greece, where we're looking at the this time period, the height of the Greek Empire, and how it impacted the context of the New Testament when Jesus and the church are on the scene, and then our current culture as well, how it's impacted us now, even to this day. And what's great is I don't know when this episode's coming out, but there is a couple episodes coming out soon featuring some of the guys from Systematic Geekology. Pastor Will and Christian are going to be on the show to talk about the classic 1981 film Clash of the Titans. And then Christian is also going to be on a review of 300 as well. Both of
Mm,
those are going to be, I've scheduled them to come out on the Systematic Geekology feed. So you please check it out.
nice.
We
Yeah.
had a great time recording.
God. Yeah. And obviously, I love My Seminary Life for so many reasons, but I really like the kind of deep dives in the studying is for everyone, theology is for everyone kind of tagline. I'm like, yeah, that's something we very much believe in. Um,
Mhm.
Also, I keep just pitching things to Brandon to continue the Greek one. And
Yes.
so side story for just a second here. The once when we were looking for new people to join the show, someone contacted me that, oh, I have someone great. You need to talk to them, check them out, whatever. So they gave me this person's phone number and I called them and they thought it was systematic Greekology, that it was all about Greek
Oh,
stuff. And I was like,
okay.
no, actually, that's a different show, but we could do
Is that a show? Is that a thing?
it could be, why not?
You need more show
But
ideas, so we'll
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
tuck that one away for
I'm
later.
clearly not
Systematic
doing enough. Yeah.
Greek
But
Isle. Yeah,
also
right.
on my one of my other podcasts, because I'm not afraid of shameless plugs. The whole church podcast, we just had Nathan Gilmore come back on, and Nathan
Hmm.
is the Christian Humanist Project is kind of his thing.
Yeah.
So he talks a lot about like Greek philosophy and stuff. I was like, man, I should have suggested Nathan as a guest for something back when Brandon originally planned this. So maybe if you do Greek too.
Well, I forgot about Nathan being a Christian humanist, but the good news is I am having a Christian humanist on the show here in a
Ooh.
few weeks. Somebody that was much easier to contact because he's my brother-in-law. So he'll be on the show here in a few weeks. Talk
Oh,
classical literature. We're going to be looking at. I think we're going to talk about Iliad and the Odyssey. So that'll be good.
I mean, there are a few comics that have those, but also I just love all the Iliad stuff. Anyway, we are here to do comic books. That's another thing you do at college and in seminary. You have to spend time cracking open some comic books, just kind of relaxing a little bit. But before we do any of the main picks for today, we're going to do some honorable mentions. I'm going to do my own version for Comic Book Ketchup, our own version of the lightning round.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm just going to list off a few things. Really, the main reason I'm doing the lightning round this time is because I really desperately wanted to have like 6 picks.
Oh,
And then I
jeez.
realized some of these, there really isn't a ton of substance. It's just a lot of fun, and I just really
Mm,
like them. So I was like, I'll put them on the back burner. But Hades, issue 1, Image Comics is doing these like Disney villain comics. Hades was so good, and it was so different from
okay.
Scar. So the
I
Scar
didn't know
series
this
I
was
talked about before.
okay. I didn't know these were even going on. And Image
They're
is
great.
doing it?
Yeah, yeah. I skipped over. They did Maleficent too. I skipped that one because
Okay.
I'm burnt on Maleficent. She's in everything. I'm tired of it. I'm over it.
Fair. Fair.
Scar I thought was interesting, and it kind of shows like Scar's perspective and fills in some of the gaps of the Lion King movie. So that's what I
Mm,
was thinking Hades was going to be, but instead it just starts off and Hades is like looking for this cloak that's going to give him power to help him kind of get back at the gods for not inviting him to brunch. And he's putting together a heist, like he's putting together a team, like like
like some
Ocean's 11
Ocean's
style.
11. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
but it's Hades, and I'm like, this is fantastic. The art is great. It reminds me a lot more of like there was a Hercules cartoon show
Okay.
after the movie, and it looked a lot more like that to me than the movie. But the styling's great. I know this is weird. The penciling is actually something I noticed on this one. The way like the lines were
Ooh.
done,
Okay.
they weren't like they had really clear lines, but it added like detail to how it was done. So it was like it still looked like Hades looks more rugged than everything else, like just sharper, but
Okay.
also more chaotic at the same time.
Interesting.
And it was really cool how they were able to do that. Like he looks chaotic and sharper at the same time. And I'm like, how do you do both? Because usually when you go for rugged in comics, it's like just or chaotic, you just kind of do like weird pencil stuff. But it's like
Sure.
very intentional. And I don't know.
Hmm.
It was cool. It was cool. Do you have any picks for the lightning round?
I guess I will just highlight quickly that I've been working on a uh, trade paperback. I haven't finished it yet, called Hellblazer Rare Cuts. So these are this is John Constantine from the DC universe. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Hellblazer, Vertigo Comics, one of the big book series from Vertigo Comics, and this is kind of like issues that are either significant to the character development of John Constantine, his backstory, or just like written by unique writers. So, like for example, 2 of the issues are by Grant Morrison, who's one of my favorite writers. I think there's a Garth Ennis story in there because he was like a big writer for Hellblazer. So I've been working on that in my free time. It's been enjoyable. Um, I like very specific eras and very specific genres, and that's definitely going to come out in today's main picks. But one of those is DC horror. I love DC horror. Constantine, Swamp Thing is another big one for me. And yeah,
I do love Constantine.
okay.
Yeah, that's all. I love Constantine. I haven't seen much of Swamp Thing, but
Mm.
ever since they did the I know this is Marvel and not DC, but ever since they did the One Night Werewolf last year, I've been wanting to do more of Swamp Thing stuff. Mostly because I hear Swamp Thing is a lot
Oh,
like Man Thing but better.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with Man Thing. I think there was a Man
It's
Thing
just a
movie that
bad
came out.
name.
Well, first off, yeah, it's arguably
Yeah.
one of the worst names. At least they were. At least the MCU was able to turn She-Hulk into a decent name, kind of a meme for the sake of the show. But yeah, Man
Yeah.
Thing is probably the
Yeah, it's
worst out
pretty bad.
there.
Also, I have to correct myself. It's Dynamite, not Image, that's been doing
Well, that's
the
even
Disney
weirder.
villains. Yeah, right.
That's even
Yeah,
weirder.
Dynamite also started the Gargoyles earlier this year, which
All right.
I stopped it after like issue 4. I know a lot of people love it, just wasn't my speed, but to everyone's surprise, no one ever saw me this coming. I also have to mention another thing Dynamite's doing called Darkwing Duck.
I guess they have been doing that
I
one.
I love Darkwing Duck, man, and it just keeps getting sillier, catching back up from the last time I talked to you guys about it. You know, it's not gonna be one of my main picks, but I gotta let you know, after he had the whole team up moment and still wouldn't recognize that he needed the team, he went to a museum. They opened a museum for superheroes, and he didn't get his
Ooh.
own exhibit. He was only part of the Justice Ducks exhibit. So obviously he was upset about that. And
Nice.
just silly hijinks have pursued in brilliant Darkwing Duck fashion. Let's see that there, there's some Spider Gwen stuff, some Moon Knight. There's other stuff that I
Mm.
am enjoying that Marvel's doing, but nothing stands out other than a pick I'm going to do a little bit later on. So I'm gonna hang on. I think that's it for my lightning round. Did you have any other picks you want to highlight real quick?
I just want to talk about Darkwing Duck for a second. Like, I love
Yes.
how like this started like 10 years ago over at the comic book series. That is, I think it started at IDW, and I think Mark Waid did it for a little bit. I think Mark Waid, like the great Mark Waid, worked on it for a bit, and I just get with it, Disney Plus. I don't want more Star Wars. I don't want more Marvel. Where is my Darkwing Duck reboot series on Disney Plus?
Supposedly there is a Darkwing Duck series coming.
There
Supposedly.
supposedly. Okay.
I'm excited. I've weirdly enough, I've actually been talking to Amanda Dibert, who does these Darkwing Duck comics right now,
Oh,
and she
okay.
might guest on our show soon.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love the whole thing. It's weird how like plugged in I've got to the Darkwing Duck universe of all things.
Darkwing Duck's great. I one of the big missing pieces of like my 90s upbringing is that I was not allowed to watch Gargoyles. So
Oh,
I need to go check that one. I know that one is on Disney Plus. So I might check that one out here before the end of the year. There's just always so
oh
much to
man,
watch.
that's true. That's true. But with that, we end our lightning round. We're gonna jump into my first pick today is going to be Hellboy in the B.P.R.D. Again, not a very surprising to anyone anyone who's ever seen this show at all.
Frickin' love Hellboy. Let's go.
I do. I freaking love him. Um, Hellboy in the B.P.R.D. 1957. I mentioned his last comic also made one of my highlights for Comic Book Ketchup. It's because Mike Mignola is still just probably the best. Like I don't. It's hard to
Yeah.
top him.
He just
Top
puts
5.
banger, banger after banger after banger. They're all greatest hits albums.
Yeah. I think Hellboy and One Piece to me are like the only real exceptions to that whole rule of stuff's got to end eventually, where you're like, eventually it's just going to get worse. But it's like, no, it just somehow Hellboy and One Piece keep getting better. I don't think he's ever topped Hellboy in Hell, but
Mm.
man, he gets close with some of these. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, how are you still like the same character, the same kind of themes, and you're still just spitting this stuff out, man?
I know.
I and it's such a this issue from below standalone issue. I loved it. I to me, I thought the cover was a little misleading. Hellboy doesn't like die or anything. Like
Okay.
there isn't some moment of like 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 oh no, is he going to come back? No, that's not the deal at all. In fact, the theme of this one, this is why I wanted to bring it up. I thought it was so interesting because of what Hellboy does in the BPRD. So for those of you who know Hellboy or the BPRD, any of that stuff, they're kind of paranormal investigators, like the Supernatural show. There are other shows do that. I feel like it's getting more and more popular these days. But yeah, they do this. They get like, oh, there's been a ghost sighting here, or there's been a demon here, or this monster's there, and they go see if there's anything to it. And if there is, of course, they're supposed to, settle it for everybody in a calm, peaceful manner. And it always turns into giant fights, random hijinks, whatever. One time he had Thor's hammer fused to his arm. No biggie.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there was like weird lightning strikes in this area in Sweden, and he's like, "What's going on here?" And it's one of my favorite stories, and it's on Audible, so you can get the
Hmm.
audiobook of this. And he goes, and there's the hammer. He, he goes to grab it and it just fuses to his arm. And he spends the entire like series just trying to get rid of Mjolnir. He's like, I just don't want this thing.
That's amazing. How's Hellboy's voice in that audiobook version?
I thought it was pretty good. I was
pretty good.
very amused by it. Yeah. This issue, though, from below, he's going with these two guys. I don't remember their names because, you know, they're just kind of like those like C-list characters that we just kind of do to like bring the story along because Hellboy's kind of, honestly, Hellboy's a little bit of a silent type, I feel like. You can't really have him on a solo mission and have a lot of words to your comic. It's just going to be pictures.
Yeah.
Which pretty much what Hellboy in Hell was, and it was great. But he's going with these guys. What was interesting is one of them's like a younger field dude. One of them's a little bit older. He's like, oh, don't you ever get tired of this stuff? It's just the same thing day in and out, complaining about a job. I was like, you know, it's just like my brother-in-law. He just goes and he goes to plumbing and he fixes the plumbing. If there's something wrong, what do? Oh, you clear out the tubes and you move on and go to the next job. And it's just so interesting to hear them complain about this kind of work as just a, you know, day in, day out, kind of doing the same stuff over and over. And of course you have the young guy who's like, no, it's not. And it's so funny because I didn't get a picture for this, but the bad guy in this, like what they end up discovering, it was supposed to be a haunted sawmill. And every 50 years or so, something happens. And they're like, why is it coming back every 50 years? Whole mystery. Okay. Turns out, I might get this part wrong. I don't remember if it was Russians or Nazis or who. One of those world power villains, you know?
Yeah.
We're doing some technology, biotech kind of stuff. And there's this human monster who's like a cyborg with all these like robot parts. But they built it where like he's really powerful, but the battery lasts like 10 minutes or something. Like something stupid. And then he's plugged in. So he just recharges. And in 50 years, he wakes back up. So,
wow.
And it does look really creepy the way they did it. And I was like, that's pretty absurd. You have this really absurd, really creepy monster. They barely win, as always. And then, you know, of course, the young guy's like, how could you say this job is boring? This is like crazy. No one would have ever experienced something like this. And the older man points out, yeah, and we finish this. You know what we're going to do next? What? We're going to report it in. We're going to fill out papers. And then we're going to go to our next job. I was like, Well, like you literally like Nazi robot that wakes up every 50 years. He's like, yep. Mm-hmm. All right, next job.
On to the next.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting because I actually just started a new job that I've done before. Enough, Chipotle. I'm going back there doing service leader stuff. I've done that before, technically. We're opening a new store. I'm the kind of person that like I'm drawn to new. If you told me we're going to do a church plant, I'm all there for it. In 5 years, it's not that I would be tired of church. It's like I just like starting new things. That's why I've started so many podcasts.
Sure.
Like I feel like I was just kind of like gifted in that way where I like starting new things. So I think that's why this one really spoke to me because I was like, oh yeah. Sometimes the hardest thing is when you're like, yeah, I'm just doing the same thing over and over. Because at first, for me, because I'm weird, I get excited about food. So I'm learning about Chipotle. And the thing that we season our pork with is the same thing that's used to season brandy. And I think that's so interesting. And it's so cool. And when I tell the new people who just got hired on that, they're like, oh, that's really interesting. And then a week later, they're like, Josh, stop telling me fun facts about our food. So, it's how it is.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting that even when you're paranormal investigators, you still kind of have to deal with some of that mentality.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for some people, a job is a job, like even if you are fighting Nazi robots who wake up once every 50 years because their battery takes that long man, what did they got? Like an iPhone battery in there? Like
that's a great question. I wish the comic was close enough to me that I could just pick it up and see because it is. I'm going to find out if this was a Nazi or what this was.
Mignola really is showing off his like humor in this one. It sounds like, I know you said that the monster is like grotesque or whatever. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good stuff there.
Yeah, it is. Oh man. Okay, let's see. I am flipping through this comic. This is super professional. It was a secret society of occultists.
Oh, that makes sense.
So they were doing like dark magic stuff with
a little black magic.
Biotech. Yeah.
There we go.
That's better for paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got world powers from, but yeah, I thought it was so interesting. So, Brandon,
Yeah.
my seminary friend, is this just like, because I know that's like a lot of for me, it brings up like gosh, why can't I think? Is that Ecclesiastes? It's like all of everything is for nothing, everything is for vain.
Oh,
Bad
okay.
things
Yeah.
happen to a
Yeah.
good person, good things happen to bad people. You know, it's like that same mentality of like no matter what job you work, it's just going to be a job. Is that
Hmm.
like how do you actually answer that kind of complaint? Do you just kind of go, okay, dude, move on, or
I guess it depends on, who we're talking to. If, yeah, I'm currently a stay-at-home dad, but yeah, thinking back to my retail job back before my son was born, it's very easy to get into that mundane day in, day out routine. I've had that mentality easily. Um, and working with people who are primarily like unbelievers, I would say any form of motivation I could come up with for all of us was more so in the form of just like, let's try to find some enjoyment in the day, which kind of comes up a little bit there in Ecclesiastes of just eat, drink, enjoy life, just try to make the best of it is hard advice to
Mhm.
take. And this is coming from an existentialist, so the advice is it's more of a do as I say, not as I do type of thing here. But yeah, I think the best that we can do when we get into that situation and maybe we're dealing with unsaved coworkers is more of this idea of like, let's try and find some enjoyment in the day. Somebody go do a coffee run. Somebody write off some donuts, whatever. And let's just try and pick ourselves up a little bit here. As believers, we do have that in Colossians where it says, whatever you do to the glory of God. And I really think that that verse is more prophetic than we may realize. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know exactly the full context of what was going on there in Colossae that Paul needed to instruct the church on this. It's been a while since I've read the book, but just like for us as Christians, like it's easy to get into a job where we don't enjoy it. Easy where it come, you're a paranormal investigator and it's just, time for more paperwork, whatever. But like the realization for us is that we have a higher calling in our work,
Mhm.
and that should be the motivation for us, particularly when we just, you have to have money, you have to pay bills, you have to pay bills, you have to buy food, and sometimes you have to get a job that, maybe isn't what you want in life. And you know, if you know my personal story, you know that that's been like the bulk of my
Mhm.
like adult life is not being in ministry, not being in vocational ministry and having to sit and process that. And yeah, we do
Mhm.
have this promise, this command of do it for God, you know,
Mhm.
don't do it for the paycheck because the paycheck is still temporal. Doing what we do for God lasts,
Mhm.
it brings him worship, it brings him glory. So that is the best I can do
Yeah.
unprepared.
Yeah. I have a I guess a more like Baptist-costal answer, and then I have like a completely non-religious answer at all to this, I guess.
Good.
My Baptist-costal answer is so many times, you get that whole like, oh, you should make a difference. People should see you and see God. And like, there's always that expectation to be like being the best worker. And then people are going to want to be like Jesus. I really feel the one thing that makes people stand out the most are people who are actually happy when they're working,
Mhm.
because people just don't expect you to come in with a smile and be like, hey, I'm just blessed to have this day. And I think
Mhm.
if you really refocus, like what Brandon was saying, and kind of seeing every day as a gift from God, remembering, this stuff of like, hey, God has me here for a reason, do everything
Mhm.
for his glory. If you're thinking of it, that kind of mission mindset, as much as I hate to use that kind of language these days, I think if you think of it through that lens, it's easier to be more joyful at work, and people notice that kind of thing. Um,
Mhm.
the completely non-religious answer, I think if you find something that you enjoy doing, like I enjoy Chipotle. It's easy for me to be happy working at Chipotle, even though the next guy might think it's the most miserable thing ever, and for him it's just a job.
Mhm.
I think it's a good idea to try to find something that you can do for work that you actually enjoy doing. Because anything paranormal investigator, cop, president of the United States can be a terrible job or a wonderful
Mhm.
job, just depending on if you actually enjoy that job. And it's okay to be different than other people. If you for
Mhm.
some reason enjoy taking out trash, Dude, do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Do what you
Yeah.
like. Do what you love. Or try
Yeah.
to make the best of it. Find what
So,
you can love about your job.
yes. And with that, Brandon, you had a special pick. And one of the reasons I love having Brandon on is sometimes me and Will just pick whatever's newest, and Brandon's like, I'm just gonna tell you what I'm reading, and it's gonna be good.
Well, I
So this
don't
is a
know
little bit
if
of a throwback.
I don't know if good is the right word to use here, but no,
Well,
I am
tell
a
me
little
about
bit
this one.
I'm a little bit more into back issues.
Yeah.
There is a couple things coming out this year here at the end of the year that I'm new releases that I'm excited for. I think we're going to highlight a few of them here near the end of the episode. But I just read this week Savage Dragon #2 uh, by Eric Larson. Eric Larson, writer, creator, and artist for this. I have a guilty pleasure for 90s comics, particularly my guiltiest pleasure of that being the Savage Dragon. For those of you unfamiliar with your classic Image comic stories, the dragon is a Chicago cop who has amnesia, cannot remember what his life used to be like. And uh, like I said, he's in Chicago, which I'm near, so there's kind of that as well for me. And the city has been overrun by what they call in the series, get this, you ready? Very technical, super freaks. Super freaks are basically these like mutants who are
Fantastic.
villains. Yeah, they spend no time on that. I think in the cartoon they're called mutants. I think they do go with mutants in the cartoons, but yeah, in the book it's
Man,
super freaks, and the dragon would be a super freak, and the Chicago police force is completely
that's
like
great.
does not have any way in order to handle the issue going on with all the super freaks overrunning the city. So the dragon, the savage dragon, is like the counterbalance to that. He is a cop who is a freak who can actually like hold his own against these other against these other freaks. This issue features the return of Super Patriot, who is this hero who was left for dead by the freaks, but shockingly lived and survived. And the reason why I like the Savage Dragon i- is because it is the epitome of what you think of when you think of 90s comics. It's over the top, violent, grunge, but also in a positive light. Like that's all the it's so bad it's good category, but in the it's actually good part is that I love this style of art that Eric Larson has. It's very it's similar to like Todd McFarlane or Jim Lee, where it's just very detailed artwork. You know, you look at like Frank Miller in this time period, like with Sin City, it's almost minimalistic by comparison because Miller is using more like shadows and light and dark and very little color in order to tell his stories. Whereas like Larson is got just it's just every little tear in the shirt, every little splinter of wood from where bullets are flying through. It's like you can see everything. And I love that kind of artwork.
Man, that yeah, that is fun. But is this the Ninja Turtles are in this?
No, you have a different cover there. That is a
Oh.
actually I bought that issue.
Oh, okay.
It's currently underneath me. I don't know if I'm actually pointing at it,
Yeah.
but it is. I bought this issue and I'm waiting to go pick it up.
Oh, my bad. Let's
No, it's good. Would you like to see the cover? I
boom.
have it here with me. Here we go.
Yes,
You know
yes.
what? I'll take it
Okay,
out of
so
the
this is
plastic. Yeah.
that's why I was
There
confused. I was like, how is he not mentioning the turtles yet? What? Okay. Now I get it. Okay. I just found the wrong one.
Yeah, it's
So
good.
Iron Patriot, you said?
Super Patriot.
Super Patriot. I was like, did Marvel steal that? Okay. Super Patriot. That's fun.
Let me see if I can
So
find just like
oh wow. I think that might answer the question. I was gonna ask you, so is Savage Dragon just like an anti-hero, but looks like yes?
yeah.
Yeah.
He is an anti-hero, but he also like keeps to the law as well. Like he is
Okay.
when I watched the cartoon, bear with me here.
I
My
did not know there
wife's
was a cartoon for the
there was
record.
a short-lived cartoon, like 2 seasons. Jim Cummings is the voice of the dragon. When I was watching the cartoon, my wife is like, "What is this propaganda that you're watching?" Um, because it is kinda like this trust your cop. The cartoon version is very much more like trust your police officers. They're all good people type of thing. And this is slowly going into a territory that we do not have time to talk about. But in the comic, like he is very anti-hero ish, but like he chooses not to kill the super freaks. He wants justice to be carried out in the proper form, but also like he's got, I think I'm trying to find the, I think it's like right at the beginning he's battling a giant spider and he has like
Oh, man. Can you, man. Yeah, because you weren't kidding about the details in that.
oh yeah,
Man. Sorry, it really does stand out. That's
it
cool.
does. Yeah, I like Eric Larson. I like that Todd
Yeah.
McFarlane is very much like that too.
Yeah. So he's a mutant. We're basically working on the side of the cops, capturing the other mutants.
Correct, the bad ones.
That does seem very much like they're not all bad kind of language, right? Or is
Yes.
that okay?
No, it is. And
Huh.
he does is interesting. I haven't read a lot of the comics. I picked these up. The nice thing is it's a 90s comic, so all of these are like a
Yeah.
buck or less. But in the show, there is this interesting, like, he does go through a form of like, I can't think of the right word, not persecution. That is absolutely not the right word. But I'm just blanking at the moment. The other police officers in the precinct don't trust him because he's a mutant, because he's a super
Ooh.
freak. He does experience like, I don't know if racism is the right word for this, but it is kind of this commentary towards that as well. So it's a mixed bag of metaphors, to be
Hmm.
honest. Um,
Yeah.
but
Mutant
again,
stuff
I
typically is.
mutant stuff usually, yeah, especially when you get into like the older X-Men stuff, especially.
You know what it makes me? I'm not going to go on a full side tangent, but you know what it makes me think of? There's an
But
episode of Family Matters. I don't know if you ever watched Family Matters.
okay.
I love Family Matters. Did I do that? Anyway, the dad in the show is a cop, and I
Mhm.
think it was his son got he got arrested. And they were able to get him out on bail, and he was going over like what all happened, and it was like in the same place he was doing what the other people were doing. That he was the only black kid there, and he was the only one that ended up in jail. And it was
Oh,
so
okay.
interesting how quick his dad, who was a cop, went from, no, you never do this kind of stuff. We obey the law. You deserve to be in jail because, he's very much upon the law,
Mhm.
too. You said you were the only one who got in trouble. It immediately left to go talk to the arresting
Oh,
officer. And
okay.
it was intense. And
Okay.
it's funny because the only reason I really remember it is because it came back up during all the George Floyd stuff in 2020. There was like
Oh,
clips of that
interesting.
were on my feed, and I was like, wait a minute, I remember that.
Hmm.
And it felt like something that could have came out that year. It was so weird.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Interesting.
strange. It's good stuff
For
though.
sure.
Yeah, so our recommendations: go watch Family Matter.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Oh man. All right.
And I
My
guess if
next
you wanna watch the cartoon, it's on Peacock, just
yeah,
FYI.
The Savage Dragon.
The Savage Dragon cartoon is on Peacock if you so choose.
I am so tempted to there's so many things. It's so weird how this is it's so weird how many times Peacock gets something that I'm like, man, that's almost a good enough reason for me to get Peacock. And it seems like they have a ton of things like that. And that maybe I should just get Peacock. I think once the Monk movie comes out, I'll be done in and I'll have to have
Oh, there you
Peacock.
go. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. So my next pick, well, isn't Family Matters. Also, it is it's interesting. We've been picking a lot of like not the main two. We're not
Oh,
Marvel and DC. We got our
hmm.
last ones for both of us, I think, are Marvel and DC.
Mhm.
But or they're both Marvel. But before we get to the main ones, I'm back at I think Ice Cream Man is Image Comics, but I can't read that down there very well.
I'm pretty
Uh,
sure, yeah.
yeah,
That looks like the eye, yeah.
oh, I love Ice Cream Man. This is easily my favorite comic book series going on right now, and that's saying that with Darkwing Duck in mind, even.
Nice.
I love Ice Cream Man. It is very much just classic horror stories, and this is one of the fun ones that Ice Cream Man himself is not in the issue at all because he doesn't need to be, because that's just not what this story is. And it's so cool. This is issue 36, and the story goes from like, there's this older man, and I thought it might have been Moby Dick. That might have been them telling their version of Moby Dick. Because it's this older sailor. He lost his daughter, got swallowed by a whale, and he swears that she was alive when she got swallowed, so she's still out there, so he's hunting this whale, right? And everybody in town thinks he's crazy, and he's like, no, I swear she was alive when she got swallowed. Ends up going out to sea, finds the whale, and I'm like, okay, it's going to be Moby Dick. Gets in the mouth of the whale, gets swallowed up, says he's looking for his daughter, and that's when I'm like, okay, this is Ice Cream Man, so I expect it to be a weird take of whatever story it tells. You know, it had Adam and the Eve once, but instead of the apple tree, it was Ice Cream Man with ice cream.
Okay.
So I was thinking maybe it's one of those situations, and then boom, there's Pinocchio.
Good swerve. Good swerve.
Yeah. I also got to let you guys know that there's a lot of I say a lot. For me, there was a lot of nudity because I don't typically read comics that have nudity in it. So for me, a lot of nudity is any nudity, but
sure,
there are genitalia that you see in this issue. Yeah. That's just, fair warning for those who are sensitive to that. But it was weird. So you see Pinocchio, this other guy, and they're all like, some of these are like classic fairy tales. Some of these are other things. There's a bunch of people just hanging out in bathtubs inside the whale. It's very trippy, where I'm like, maybe the guy is insane. Like maybe the dude actually is insane. Maybe that's what's happening here. And anyway, long story short, they tell him he talks about his daughter and like, oh yeah, we've seen someone like that. Let's go ask our queen, the ruler, the Bone Queen. And they take it up. And of course, the Bone Queen ends up being his daughter, who is now only bones.
Oh.
Because, digestive system does that to people, it turns out.
Sure, right. Okay.
Yeah, and he flips. He takes the daughter and runs, and, the guy that's there with Pinocchio is like, oh, no, don't take her. And it's like, even like drags out the oh, no. So it's like he's being sarcastic. It's like, oh, I guess they have a plan. They're going to stop him. And nope, he just gets out with the Bone Queen and just sailing with his daughter that is now Bones. And throughout the story, he just kind of mentions stuff that he regrets. And one of the things that stands out to him is she asked for a hug once and he was too busy, and he was like, I'll just later, we'll play later, we'll do something later. And at the end, he's just sitting there with the bones in the boat, and he's like, why couldn't I just give her a hug?
Wow, that's heavy.
And it was it's every issue was so heavy, and at the same time I'm always just left like stunned. Like I always have to reread Ice Cream Man because I'm like, I feel like I missed something. Why were there naked people in tubs? Like, what is going on here? And a lot of the times I reread and I get it. And I'm like, oh, that was symbolism. That was this. That was that. There's a lot of stuff in this issue that I'm like, I don't know. And maybe that's the point. Maybe I'm still supposed to be questioning whether he was just crazy.
Okay.
I have no idea.
A little ambiguous. Get you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
It was an ambiguous, heavy, just kind of a mind F of a comic. And I'm just like, I had to bring it up because I'm still a little stunned by it. I don't have any like deep thing to tell you guys. I don't think I learned anything. I just feel like emotionally, I'm still sitting on this. I'm like,
totally. Yeah.
Something deep happened here. I have been affected, but I'm not sure how I have been affected, and I'm not sure what the deepness was.
Also Pinocchio.
Yeah, also Pinocchio. Yeah. And that's just, that's what W. Maxwell Prince is, what he's this whole series has been like that. And it's part of why I love it. I'm slightly aggravated that I still feel like I'm missing something from this issue. So
sure.
If anyone's read it, they're like, hey, yeah, no, the random genitalia was actually symbolic of this. Let me know. Because I'd love to know what happened. Because I still, like, truly, I say stunned, I mean it. Like, it's like, emotionally, I just felt numb at the end. And I was
how long ago did you read this issue? How long have you been sitting on it?
Like, whenever it came out. So I feel like a week or two ago.
So it's been like 2 weeks of like,
I think just
what was that bathtub about?
And I have reread it a couple of times, and I'm like, What?
Nice.
Yeah, and yeah, he sails out on the bathtub too, which is part of why I'm like,
Hmm.
he can't be completely crazy because there clearly was at least a bathtub in the whale, right?
Right. Yeah.
And he has
Yeah,
his
that part has
daughter.
right. Weird.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's
So
a cool
Moby
one.
Dick, Pinocchio, mind F of a comic, but hey, if you're out there, hug your loved ones. That's
Yeah,
all I got
totally.
for you.
That is what you should take away from this one. Just go give a relative a hug right now.
Yeah, just somebody, please. For my well-being, because I'm still distraught over this. I need everyone to hug a loved one.
Nice.
Anyway, so I wish I had some kind of better like end note for this. I don't. So we'll just transition seamlessly to your next.
Sure. All right. Oh, and you got the cover this time. Good job.
I got the right one.
I didn't know that you did covers, so I'll send you pictures next time in the
Yeah,
future.
it's relatively new.
Okay. But this issue is dedicated to Ryan Doze, who I have never gotten the pleasure of working with here on the show, but
I
I
meant to
know he's
invite
the
him to
Thor.
this.
He is the Thor guy. So this one's for you, bud. So Marvel What If number 66, another one from the 90s. I know it's from the 90s because the first advertisement on the inside cover is for getting your VHS copy of Jurassic Park.
VHS.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Video
fantastic.
cassette. Get your video cassette copy of Jurassic Park. So
Please send me a picture of that advertisement. I'm gonna put that on the Facebook group as the teaser for Comic Book Ketchup.
I definitely will. I like picking up the what if issues in Marvel, particularly when the what if scenario is kind of plausible. And to me, like this is plausible. Like I don't know how this isn't its own standalone series at some point, but as you can gather, the synopsis of this issue is: what if Rogue drained Thor of his abilities? So this issue is the epitome of 90s big bombastic child dumping all of the toys, all of their action figures out and banging all of them together at the same time because it's a breakneck speed. There's all these characters. It opens with Rogue draining Thor, like right off the bat. This is evil Rogue. I guess I should clarify this. We're dealing with evil Rogue here, and she is absorbing all of Thor's powers. But what is great is that, Josh, this is actually like a beta test of what they end up doing with Jane Foster with the Mighty
Oh,
Thor, because she doesn't just get Thor's abilities, she is now Thor. She is the
oh.
mighty Thor. She can wield Mjolnir. She is worthy to wield the hammer.
So, just for clarity's sake, does she
Yes.
become worthy, hold the hammer, and then get the powers, or does she get his powers and that makes her worthy to hold the hammer?
Drains the powers, then gets to hold the hammer.
Now, how does the worthiness play in here? Because if she's evil rogue, wouldn't she be unworthy?
She is Thor. She like doesn't just absorb his abilities, she absorbs who he is. And like, look, there's no
Okay,
explanation.
yeah.
This is when you start using comic book logic. Okay,
Is she good
she
now then, or
well, we get to that. We do get to
okay?
that
Okay,
in the
I'll hold
issue.
off.
Yeah. So as she's absorbing Thor and now has his abilities and can wield the hammer, it's like, I don't know. I'm assuming it must be some version of the West Coast Avengers who are there, because it's Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Vision, who are like three of the most common. Wonder Man, Spider Woman are all there. Joxta, who is supposed to be like the wife of Ultron or something like that, the bride of Ultron. I have no idea what this one is.
What?
Okay, you don't either. Cool. Maybe they made it up
Okay,
for this issue. I don't know.
wild.
Sure. So she like does battle with all of them, wins, kills Vision. The rest of them drag Thor's body to the Fantastic Four. Reed Richard diagnoses it as, no, she's Thor now. This is just a hunk of flesh here on the table. She is now Thor. The Brotherhood of Mutants get involved then because, again, Rogue is evil. She's reporting back to Mystique. Loki shows up and does some like trickery thing on her mind where she now believes that they are both siblings because Thor was Loki's sibling, and that they have both been cast out of Asgard and they need to go reclaim Asgard for their own. So then it turns into this huge battle with Asgardians, Loki and Rogue Thor, and these the Avengers and the Fantastic Four that I mentioned earlier. Huge battle. Rogue realizes that Loki played a trick on her. She turns on Loki, and that's when this ends with her becoming a hero and becoming the mighty
Wow.
Thor. Yeah, it's just like
Wow.
breakneck speed, banging action
How
figures
long
together.
is this comic?
And not that long, like standard. I would say standard.
So that sounds like a
90s
super
comic.
sized one.
It is not, and like I said, this could easily have been its own series. Here you could get a shot here at the end.
That I like her design a lot too. She looks.
I do
cool.
too. I do too.
Man, you really make me want to read more 90s comics.
Well, the good
Like
news
so
is
many of these I haven't seen.
they're also dirt cheap. So like,
now I just gotta find them somewhere.
yeah, right.
That I might actually pick that one up because that's one that I'm like, I haven't heard of that until right now.
It's a lot of fun.
I never knew Rogue was Thor. I mean, this is a what if, I guess.
It is a what if. So
But
for
still.
one whole issue, she is Thor. And it was something, man.
that yeah. It reminds me of because I was talking about this a little bit. Secret Invasion comics. Whenever the show was coming out, I talked about that on our podcast a little bit.
Yeah.
Of how in the comics, some of the Skrull had to go so deep undercover to literally become the hero that whenever they had to go back to Skrull mode, they so fully became the character that they could no longer be evil. Gotcha. Like there were some of them that just, I think Captain America's was one, or Captain Marvel, and they were like, I just so embodied this character that it's like now I kind of a little bit am this character.
I am this person. Yeah, that makes sense.
Is that? I feel like there's something deep there that someone could grab onto. They can do that on their own.
Completely accidentally, I was thinking about this while we were doing this episode. I did pick out 2 episodes that do deal with the topic of identity a little bit because, like I said, that's a big part of the Savage Dragons, like trying to figure out who he was prior to his accident, if he was always a freak. Same here with Rogue literally committing identity theft here. Identity theft is not a joke, Jim.
That's also, I'm going to move on after this, but the Spider-Man deals a lot with that whenever his more earlier interactions with the X-Men, because it's like, is he a mutant? No, he wasn't born with this gene, but at the same time, he has been mutated.
Right. Yeah. He is very different that way. I guess I've never thought about that before.
Yeah, that's something they kind of played around with it a little bit in the 90s animated Spider-Man, but they never really went into it, which I wish they would have. But my other one's also a Marvel, and this is before we get to the main topic, which is funny because we have maybe it's not a main topic. We have like a finale for everybody. A finale topic.
We do.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna brush through this because I think it's worth it, but I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on this one. But I do love Moon Knight, City of the Dead. It's a mini series going on right now. I think there's 3 issues in, but I'm only 2 issues in. So you guys just get those 2. I love it. At first, I was a little off put because I can tell that they're trying to make Moon Knight a little bit more like the Disney Plus version of Moon Knight, where the religion is more it's just true. There just are moon gods. We're not going to question that part. He still has mental issues, but whatever, because usually the Khonshu stuff and all that, a lot of the older issues, it was maybe not older, the in between old and new comics, a lot of them had where it was like, oh wait, was Khonshu ever there, or is he just making this up? Now it's just nope, it's there. He also still has mental health issues, but Khonshu is just a thing now. So is the City of the Dead.
Okay, cool.
And I can't remember the name of the god, but the god of the Egyptian god of the dead plays a big role in this series. So what happens is a child is taken by some of the followers of the death god during the night in Mark Scepter's city. Mark can't let it go. He goes, no, it happened at night. He's still under my watch. So you're getting some of this weird like jurisdiction stuff of like, is this Khonshu's jurisdiction or is this Death God's jurisdiction? Because the kid died, but he died
Huh.
unjustly at night during a full moon or
Okay.
something. You know, weird
Of
stuff.
course.
Basically, they just kind of excuses. Boom, Moon Knight's in the city of the dead. That's the important thing. They just wanted to get him there, I think. His love interest from like forever ago that was in the show that I can't think of her name.
No, I can't
Guys,
even.
I'm not acing this. I'm sorry, guys. But he finds her in the city of the dead, and it turns out she is now the protector of the city of the dead.
Oh,
So he
okay.
gets to team up with her. So that's been kind of cool. Once I got over the fact that the religious stuff is just a part of it now, it's cool. It's interesting because part of the big way that Moon Knight's going to be able to win is you have to have strong mental fortitude to be able to handle the city of the dead and come back.
Okay.
And they're kind of wrestling a little bit with, can he have strong mental fortitude when he also has this kind of multiple personality thing going on?
Okay.
So it's interesting to see he can have strong mental fortitude and still have this issue. Like those two aren't mutually exclusive necessarily. So it's interesting to see them play around with that. I really like we're going to get justice and something is going wrong in the city of the dead. There's some deals being made that shouldn't have been made, all this kind of stuff. One reason I really love it, do you know who's dead? Most of the
Who?
people that Moon Knight has completely effed up.
Oh, that makes sense.
So all of his like old big villains, like the guy, I can't remember a lot of their names, but Black Scepter is here. The
Okay.
guy, the one dude whose face he just ripped off. I always forget that guy's name, but he looks so creepy because he's just a faceless dude.
Is Dracula there? Because I love that Moon Knight Dracula panel.
I hope
That
so.
that
I don't
Dracula
remember
owes him
Dracula.
money.
But yeah, watching him take on all of these old villains, reunite with like his old love interest, and truly, especially because Moon Knight's been in Marvel, he's been making a lot of progress of not being this complete savage that he used to be, where he's not just ripping people's spines out.
Oh.
Yeah, which I was a little about. But what's cool of this one, even though they're trying to make him a little bit more tame now, yeah, his flashbacks is him remembering ripping people's faces off and stuff. So the comic itself is not tame. And so it's showing what he did, why the people are here, and why, even though they were bad guys and deserve to be punished, they might have a real reason to not to go after Moon Knight. So it's kind of cool. You get this vengeance from the bad guy. What's funny is now usually he is, he serves the god of vengeance. He's usually the vengeance guy. But now he's serving the moon god, trying to enact real justice and save someone. And his old villains are seeking vengeance after him. So seeing him be the victim of vengeance instead is also kind of interesting. I
Interesting.
love it. Yeah. It's
That
fun.
is different. That sounds pretty
And
good.
yeah, all the art and stuff's really well done. I think it's the best Moon Knight story in a while. So
I really like these covers. These are pretty good covers.
yeah, me too. That's why I had to do both. Because like these covers are cool. Whoever did this, they get Moon Knight. Like they really
Good.
do. Even though they're
Good.
changing some stuff, they truly, it seems like they understand the character. So I'm like, you know what? I'm okay if he changes in a way that makes sense and it's just character progression rather than he's different now. Why? Because he was different in that Disney show and we need it to reflect the same thing.
Right.
The fact that they're actually showing character progression makes me feel better about it, I guess. I don't know.
That is encouraging because you're right. A lot of the times it's just like, what are they doing in the show? Okay, do that. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that they're actually trying to make those like actual linear steps to make him more like what he is in the show.
Yeah. It's encouraging. Also, I just love that the violence is not missing. Even if it's mostly in flashbacks, I like the Moon Knight that is just completely savage. So I like seeing that and
Sure.
also getting the character progression at the same time. I like this is good stuff.
Good.
Anyway,
Right on.
one of the big reasons. When I say big, I mean like monster, huge reasons that we had Brandon join us. because there's some stuff going on in the comic book world surrounding one of our favorite nerdy characters,
There he is.
Godzilla.
That's a good one. That's a good pick.
Yeah. Brandon, why do we love Godzilla?
Why? Well, you can actually go back to an episode it was TJ, Joe, and I did on why we love Godzilla so much. And it's because, in the words of the immortal TJ, sometimes you just want a giant lizard smashing a bunch of stuff. That's all. That's why you want Godzilla around. And one of the best, for my money, the best news that came out of San Diego this year was that Godzilla and Kong are taking on the Justice League starting next month, because we've all been asking for that one.
Man, yeah, I honestly, there's a lot of comics that I'm loving with Godzilla currently and coming up. Of course, that Justice League one. Also, hey, speaking of that Godzilla quote with TJ, sometimes you just want to see a giant lizard crush stuff. We do have a shirt on the store. It's just a lizard.
I still need to buy that one. I love it.
Breathing fire on the city. Yeah. That's one of my favorite shirts. So yeah, go to the SG store, check it out. All of our shirts are really comfy. That is by design. I had the choice of either doing like $5 cheaper and just having cheaper shirts that people can get, or be like, you know what, we'll charge slightly more, and I charge you guys the same I get charged, and the shirts be super comfy. And I'm highly of the belief that comfy is always the way to go.
Yeah,
because I don't buy the shirts that I bought that weren't comfy, no matter how cool they look. I just buy the shirt. I wear the shirts that are comfortable. I'm just being real.
Yeah.
I want you guys to actually wear this stuff. So why we love Godzilla? Yeah, I gotta agree. It's Godzilla always seems to be taking on like the government. It always like challenges, like it challenges what we know as our reality, whether that be the reality of our current political situation, the reality of climate change, the reality of nuking other countries. Godzilla always is challenging the status quo, and not in a direct way. He's not like, oh, I'm going to go against the system. It's Godzilla. He's going to just step on the system.
He's just going to smash it.
Yeah.
We would like, the UN would now like to open the floor to Mr. Zilla. Zilla, what would you like to say?
Breathe nuke fire.
Right.
Gosh,
there's also a new Godzilla movie coming out here at the end of the year from Toho Studios. Godzilla -1 is what it's called. I have no idea what that means, but that's what it is called.
That's fun.
There's a lot of fun series coming out here at the end of the year, because we also have coming out in a few weeks here in September. We've got Predator versus Wolverine. For some reason, for some reason, all these monster characters are getting these big crossover stories. But I'm here for Wolverine versus Predator as well. That looks good.
Yeah, yes. And Brandon will probably be on to talk about that and the Justice League one.
Yeah.
But before why I'm excited for Justice League, because there's a reason I wasn't on that other Godzilla episode. I like Godzilla, but it's never been like one of my major geekdoms. Pirates, on the other hand, pirates are. And right now, Will turned me on to this. There's a series going on with Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons. And what I think is really... there's so much stuff that I think is interesting about it. One of the most interesting things, though, is usually Godzilla is like showing us why war is bad or climate change. Or it's weird to see him in this context, because he's not this giant threat that the world's trying to figure out how to do. So far, it's some pirates, just like they find the Kraken or some other kind of monster, ran across this, and it's like some sea legend that there's something out there, and they're trying to convince other people that this thing's real and it's out there and it's dangerous. And the first two issues of this, there's just this danger out there that people don't believe is real, and pirates have seen it, and it kind of being more of like a seafaring tale rather than a giant lizard step on city tale. I'm really love it, because it's still the Godzilla we know and love. He's going to breathe nuke fire and just destroy things. He destroyed an entire armada already.
Wonderful.
Yeah, but because this is pirate times, it was just an entire armada is lost at sea, and we got to figure out what's going on. And no one believes the one pirate that's like, I know what happened. It was Godzilla. There's a giant lizard out there that breathed nuke on them.
I like this. I wish there was more things like this of doing like period piece, because obviously these are like not current pirates. These are, Pirates of the Caribbean style pirates. But to do
Oh,
something like
cheesier.
this, oh, even cheesier, wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Our flag means death, pirates. But it
Yes.
would also be cool to see something like this of like Godzilla versus basically How to Train Your Dragon, like
Oh
Godzilla
yeah.
versus a bunch of Vikings. That would be really cool. Or I've seen fans online talk about how they would really like to see a Predator, especially after Prey came out, to see a Predator movie where uh Predator is hunting down like a samurai, a Ronin character. Like that would be really cool. I wish we had more of these like period piece style stories. That's great.
Oh yeah. Well, especially because it's interesting that I've never thought of Godzilla outside of the one genre of
Mhm.
like what he's usually in, but I'm like, it makes sense. If he's been here for millions of years or whatever, there are all kinds of stories we could tell. And that's what I'm excited about this and the other one happening, because it seems like IDW or whoever finally kind of realized, wait a minute, let's just unleash Godzilla. He could be in everything, in every kind of
Right.
genre, and we'll just have him all over the place.
That
Because
is
why
great.
not? Yeah.
Hopefully this crossover with Kong and the
Ah,
Justice League goes over better than the crossover of Batman and Superman versus Alien and Predator.
I haven't heard that one yet.
Okay, so that one came out like early 2000s, I think, and I was so excited for it, and it was so lame. There's all these
Aw.
great Batman versus Predator, Batman versus Alien sporadic issues here and there. You throw Superman in the mix, and it's, well, they are aliens who have life, and we need to preserve this life. Shut up, Superman. I want to watch Batman punch aliens, and I want to watch you punch an
Oh,
alien. That
that's
would be
funny.
great.
I've read one of the Batman versus Predator stuff.
Mm,
I don't remember. I like it was just something random, so I don't know the name of it or anything. I just remember
mhm.
seeing that because when I saw Wolverine, I was like, "Oh, so this is Marvel doing what DC did." I didn't know that there was also Alien, Predator, Superman, and Batman
Yeah,
at once.
yeah. That was a whole thing. That was back when Dark Horse had the publication rights
Man,
to the Predator and Alien characters, because I think it's
that's
Marvel now owns
oh yeah,
both.
yeah. That's that's interesting because that sounds like such a fun comic to have. I'm kind of
Very
sad. I'm sad
disappointing.
you told me that it was. I'm
Very
disappointed that
disappointing.
you told me it was disappointing. Oh man. So yeah. So what are we looking forward to in this then? So we're hoping that Jupe doesn't go, oh, but they're creatures and try to like peace, which based off this one panel that they've showed us, it looks like they're not going to go for peace. They are going
There
to be fighting.
there is going to be some form of fighting, clearly. I think it would be cool. You would have to like work this into continuity, I guess. But I think it would be cool if Wonder Woman is completely aware of what's going on here. Like like this is part of Amazonian myth that, particularly with King Kong, I think that she would be aware that like such creatures do exist in the world. I think that's a logical jump to make
Yeah.
as we're dealing with giant apes and giant lizards. Um,
As far as logic can go here, yes.
as far as logic can go. So I'm looking forward to that. Some type of trying to think of what characters would be fun to have in this. It seems like you would throw Gorilla Grodd in here, right?
Ooh, that I would hope he would make an appearance. That would be kind of cool. Yeah. Also, one of the things that I noticed, it's not Justice League versus Godzilla and Kong. It's
Hmm.
Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. So is it like a three-way fight?
Oh,
Like
I
how
hope
does
it's a
this work?
triple threat.
Yeah,
I
like
hope it's a
everybody's just
triple
fighting
threat.
everybody. Man, and then this panel was part of the announcement,
Hmm.
and I really love this panel. It looks so cool, and it
It
tells me
does.
it tells me a lot actually, because you would think the reason Justice League is trying to stop them if they're fighting each other and not just wait
Hmm.
until the end is because they're trying to keep them from destroying things. And the one thing that I was hoping for was to see King Kong on the Daily Planet, and we've already seen that. So I know they're going at least partially in the right direction.
At least in Metropolis, yeah. You knew
Yeah.
you had to do that. You know, if it is just, I forgot that the title is technically Justice League versus King Kong versus Godzilla. I wonder if, because this is like a series, this isn't like a one and
Oh
done,
yeah.
one shot issue. I wonder if there's like groups that form around this. So you have the Justice League. What if Gorilla Grodd and the Gorilla Island like rally around King Kong? So now they have,
Yes.
yes, and like I don't know who you would do with Godzilla. Maybe
Dark Side.
Dark Side. Maybe Swamp Thing, because you would
That would
have
be
the
cool.
environmental element with
Oh, that's
Godzilla.
true.
So and you like form like not just like the Justice League versus two monsters, but the Justice League versus two monsters and their best friends. Like this could get really
Yeah.
big potentially.
I hope so. I hope they just really build this out and it's not just like a cheesy, oh, they're gonna fight. Like, there's
This
gotta be
DC, this is what we want. Just dump all of the toys on the floor and bang them together. That's what we want for this series.
I do also want that.
Don't try to write some like intelligent story. That's not what this is here for.
Yeah. I gotta say, and this might just be my bias a little bit. I hope if they're gonna do like an actual story with it, I hope they build the story around Kong and Godzilla, not around the Justice League.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because
I like that.
to me, it's just more interesting to see why Kong and Godzilla are there rather than because I feel like this Justice League motives can be pretty straightforward here.
Oh, look, Metropolis is being destroyed. I guess we should stop them now.
Yeah. Yeah.
The end.
I mean, yeah.
But why are King Kong and Godzilla in Metropolis? That's a more interesting story.
Yeah. Which is what I care about. Which maybe it's just because I like Godzilla stories slightly more than Justice League stories.
Fair enough.
I don't
That
know.
is
We'll
fair.
see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to highlight or bring out about this?
I was going to ask you something related to the Predator
Ooh,
issue
okay.
that's coming out from, since we're talking about big monsters. I'm curious. So since they're doing this one against Wolverine, so far with like the Alien stuff, Alien has been separate from the Marvel continuity, but they're doing Predator and Wolverine. So I'm curious, what other characters would you like to see Predator go up against in the Marvel universe?
Ooh, Predator specifically?
Yeah.
Punisher. I think Predator and Punisher would be fun.
Okay. I like that.
I'm trying to think of a weird one. Ooh, because this is one where I don't know who I cheer for, and I love those kind of things. Predator and Carnage. I think that could be pretty interesting because Carnage is very much a bad guy, and you're kind of like, what? I think I might be okay with Predator killing that guy, and it would make sense because he is truly powerful.
True. I think, if they continue to go this route of like doing more and more Marvel characters, it's inevitable that we'll get a symbiote version get a venomized version of Predator. So that might be it for
that would be
if
cool.
he battles Carnage. I thought of Wolverine makes sense because Wolverine kind of has this like tracker ability within him. Another one, Kraven the Hunter.
Oh, that would be cool.
Because that really also gives you another way to expose this character because he's getting a movie in the near future. Maybe do some of the rewrites. But since like Predator is a hunter, let's put him up against who is arguably the biggest hunter, the greatest hunter in Marvel.
I got a really far-fetched one too.
Go.
Also,
go for it.
Yeah, yours is best. I'm gonna say that before I say mine.
Oh boy.
Yours is still better. But because there's more than one Predator, right? There's Predators.
Yeah, there can be more than one. There can be more than one. Yeah.
Predators versus Thanos.
Oh,
that one I want to see. Because
interesting.
that would be truly like hunting Thanos. That would be cool. But
That's true.
Kraven would definitely be better.
I've got one fun one to close this out on.
Okay.
This.
Yeah.
Deadpool.
I thought about it too.
Because what would be great is that Predator would totally just get bored of killing him over and over again. And that's how Deadpool wins. Is he just bores him to death? He's no longer interesting to hunt.
Yeah, that's fair because I could see where Deadpool wouldn't even bother trying.
Yeah,
Like
eventually
he's
he would
like
just figure it out and just like let himself be killed over and over again,
Deadpool's
like
just
a
like, wait a
groundhog,
minute,
like a
what am I getting out
Groundhog's
of this?
Day.
That actually that's the comic. It's Groundhog's Day
Groundhog's
with Deadpool, but the reason he keeps dying is a
Just
predator.
get rid of the predator. I love it.
Good, that's fantastic. Oh man. So with that, we go ahead. We're gonna wrap this one up. Um, did you have like I know this is all comics and all kinds of
Mhm.
recommendations, but did you have anything other than comics that you'd like to throw our listeners' way? What should they be checking
Oh,
out?
ooh, what should they be checking out? Okay, maybe not the usual kind of movie to plug on a Christian themed show,
I
but my
love it.
wife and I just went and saw the movie Bottoms, which is a indie film that is about a group of teen girls who, okay, just so we're all aware, don't want to set up anybody. Most of them are lesbians. Okay. This is kind of an
Okay, yeah.
LGBTQ plus positive film. Okay. Just so we're all aware. But it's about a group of teen girls in high school that are tired of being treated at the bottom. And so they kind of go through this process of reinventing themselves through having essentially Fight Club and just all of the shenanigans that roll out through it. It's really funny because it's one part like a teen comedy, but it
Mhm.
also makes fun of the teen comedy genre. Like
Perfect.
yeah, it's very over the top, like how much everybody loves the football team. Like, and there's even a scene where like all of the students walk into class, they sit down, they're in there for like 3 minutes, then the bell rings, and one of the students goes, "Wait, that's it? That was all of class?" So like,
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
I'm like, I mean, I'm a Christian white guy from the Midwest. So there was plenty of parts of this that was like, this is I'm also almost 30. So there was a lot of moments I'm like
Yeah.
not really landing for me, but that's okay. It was
Yeah.
a fun little film and super short. Loved that. Marshawn Lynch is in it too, and some of the best acting I've ever seen from him.
That man, that sounds great. I I got a couple and one of them is really weird. Patrick of Ireland and his life and impact.
Love it.
Michael E.G. The only reason I'm because I went to reach for the book I actually wanted to recommend and it was on top, and I was like, actually, that's a good read too, guys. So check that out. But what I actually was going to recommend, my favorite comic book writer, G. Willow Wilson. If you haven't read
Oh,
The Bird King, it's truly one
okay.
of my favorite books I've ever read. It's very much, Palestinian Empire during the what's the bad thing other than the Crusades that Christians did?
um How much time do you have?
Well, I'm trying to think of the Spanish Inquisition. Yeah, it was
Oh,
during the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Inquisition.
The
So
Inquisition.
yeah, we see the worst of Christians. We see also both some of the worst of Islam nations because
Okay.
you're following a young girl who has been mistreated as part of a harem, and her best friend who is a map maker who's gay, and basically everyone's hush hush about it because his map making skills is that when he writes a map, the paths just appear. You can just create
Ooh,
things. It's
cool.
a lot of magic, fantasy fun, great time. It should be a comic because it's fantastic.
Sure.
Guys, with that, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed. And come back next time.